Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the relatively rare fairy-type Pokemon Cleffa, the Star Shape Pokémon, its rare evolution Clefairy, and its exceptionally rare final evolution Clefable, the latter two of which are collectively known as the Fairy Pokémon. Though they might look incredibly adorable and not a threat at all, the members of the Cleffa family are still unique fighters that can definitely use their abnormal powers to make their presence known in and out of the battlefield. Cleffa possess pink, star-shaped bodies with tiny limbs and small, digitless hands and feet, their ears being quite large and brown in color. They have a small, curled tail on their behind, and their face is quite large, dominating their compact torso and head, which are effectively fused into a single form and adorned with a large swirl of hair. Their face has a small, cute mouth, rosy red cheek markings, and a pair of small brown eyes. Their evolved form, Clefairy, similarly possess a pink compact body form with the same general shape, though their head is more distinguished with a larger curl of hair, and their red cheek markings have changed to a slightly brighter shade of pink compared to the rest of their body form. They now have a single nail on each of their feet, and their hands have developed further to possess two clawed fingers with a stubby thumb on each hand. Their eyes have turned a gray color, and they now have a noticeable but cute-looking set of canines, and their swirly tail has grown immensely in size, dominating the majority of their back along with a small pair of wings. Their final evolution, Clefable, yet again have a similar body form and color, though they have undergone further development and now have 2 claws per foot and have lost the claws on their fingers while retaining the same number of digits. Their ears have grown much larger in size, though they are still capped with brown flesh. Their eyes have shifted hue to a pinkish gray color, and their rosy cheek markings have vanished. Furthermore, their wings have grown immensely in size, being a dark pink color and being large enough to allow these creatures to levitate off of the ground freely, helped in part by their abnormal fairy force energy-based powers. The members of the Cleffa family are unique among fairy types and many Pokemon in general because it is often thought that these creatures originated from outer space. But in reality, this is far from being the case. It is understandable how this supposed rumor started, as these creatures demonstrate behavior that very much dictates an origin beyond this world, though each aspect of this behavior can be explained with a more grounded approach. For one thing, at any age, these creatures show an extreme affinity for moonstones, and are often found in the wild, either looking for or congregating around them, practically worshipping the rocks. Because moonstones are effectively highly irradiated pieces of meteoritic rock material, with a strong origin being pointed towards the Earth's moon and other pieces of protoplanet rock material in space, it would make sense then to draw a conclusion that they worship these special rocks because they know that they are from space. And for them to be able to distinguish these rocks from ordinary rocks, they must know of space and thus somehow be associated with it, right? Well, not exactly. In truth, yes, these creatures are able to tell the difference between moonstones and ordinary rocks, but this is primarily because they have developed the ability to use their fairy force energy on them to distinguish the presence of unique metallic compounds and other materials in the rocks that signify an origin from space. And more importantly, they have evolved to be able to target the specific types of meteoritic rock material that can become moonstones in time, as they are irradiated and altered by the presence of Earth's magnetosphere and atmosphere. You might ask then, why these stones are so special to them? And the truth is quite simple. Unlike most forms of stone-based evolution, Clefable are the true, natural adult form of these creatures. And because of a mutation in their DNA, they need the irradiated pieces of space material in order to fully evolve and reach their adult form. This is critical because, in their society, only Clefable, the true adults, are normally allowed to breed to make more offspring, so these fairies need moonstones in order to keep their populations going. Something that isn't helped by the fact that these creatures tend to be female by majority, having a sex ratio of 75% female and 25% male. This has resulted in them being quite skittish towards other life forms though, humans especially, as moonstones are among the rarest of evolutionary stones as a result of their unique origin and formation, and thus, these creatures are generally quite rare to come across in the wild. Still, their unique behaviors towards these space rocks are born of necessity rather than extraterrestrial origin, so that idea is debunked, and the unique powers granted to them by their fairy-type nature are still more than noteworthy in their own way. Because of the unique powers that these stones have ingrained into the genetic material of these creatures, as well as their adorable appearances, these creatures can have access to the cute charm and magic guard abilities as base abilities. Cleffa and Clefairy tend to be more friendly towards other life forms compared to Clefable, and can thus have Friend Guard as a hidden ability, while the tendency of Clefable to isolate themselves from others in the wild while ignoring the enticing actions of others can grant them access to the Unaware ability instead as a hidden ability. In terms of stats, in the case of Clefable, while they might have the luxury of having access to a number of unique powers and moves within their family as a whole as a consequence of their fairy-type assignment, they are sadly among the weaker of fairy-type Pokemon even in a fully evolved state, as most of their base stats are below average for a fully evolved fairy-type Pokemon. The only exception to this is their base HP stat, which is noticeably above average for a fully evolved Pokemon of their type, thus allowing them to at least take some hits fairly well, and combined with their at least decent special defenses, it can make them a useful special wall that can work as a great support Pokemon in a fight, while a stronger, more offensively gifted fighter does the majority of work against the opposition. As baby Pokemon, Cleffa are not able to readily defend themselves against attack for the most part on an individual level, and have limited access to their fairy-type powers, and thus tend to travel in fairly large groups, though their unique status as infant Pokemon can allow them to experiment with their powers over time, granting them access to moves their evolved forms normally do not gain access to, such as Charm, Sweet Kiss, Copycat, and Magical Leaf. While the other members of their family tend to worship moonstones alone, Cleffa have a broader interest, as it is their duty in a colony to be the astronomers of their family and to look out for potential meteoritic material as it arrives from space. They do this by watching for shooting stars, often living in places where meteoritic material has crash-landed on Earth in the past, and upon seeing many of them, these creatures will appear in droves out of nowhere, dancing about playfully in a ring throughout the night as a way of enticing the sky above to deliver upon them a gift from beyond the planet. If this does occur, and a piece of meteoritic material crashes nearby, these wee beasties will surround the object in large numbers like a giant mosh pit and will examine it, towing it away if they can determine that it is fit for the conversion process of ordinary meteoritic material into moonstones. If not, they will continue dancing regardless until daybreak, only taking the time to sip the morning dew from grass to rehydrate themselves before hiding themselves until night falls again. While this behavior has led many to think that they are the reincarnations of stars, or otherwise arrived on the planet on shooting stars, once again, it must be noted that this behavior is born of social and evolutionary purposes, and not extraterrestrial ones. Their detection abilities are also not perfect, as they will occasionally gather around fallen Minior thinking they are moonstone material, which is not unexpected as the shells of Minior have a similar chemical makeup as moonstone material, and is thankfully not taken too harshly by them, as Minior do not seem to mind them too much, though they have been known to use self-destruct and explosion attacks to clear the area if too many Cleffa congregate around them. Even so, many consider witnessing these creatures dance as a sign of good luck in the future, and their adorable appearance can melt the heart of just about anything that sees them, making them a pleasure to have around despite their rarity. With Cleffa only evolving into Clefairy once they have reached a point of maximum happiness as they gain full control of their fairy-type powers, and their EV yield changing from 1 in special defense to 2 in HP, Clefairy are the ones that start the trend of true moon worship in the Cleffa family, with them in particular being drawn to the full moon. These creatures normally dwell in deep, quiet mountain caves in isolation, far from the eyes of other Pokemon and humans especially, biding their time until the full moon rises into view. On these nights, these creatures will leave their cavern homes and will find a field or rocky outcrop exposed to the sky where the full moon's presence results in the development of an abnormal magnetic field, and begin to dance in circles, absorbing the light of the moon into their bodies to energize themselves and help build their bodies towards eventual evolution into Clefable when fully exposed to the radiant energy of a moonstone, helping to keep the stone's energy from overloading them and radically mutating them in evolution. Once the sun begins to rise, they will retreat back to their homes and sleep together in tight groups, waiting at least half a day before becoming active once again. They can energize themselves in moonlight thanks to their small wings, which, while normally functionless and too small to allow for any sort of powered flight, have special cells on their surface that are able to absorb and store light energy from the stars and especially moon, and, once converted internally into fairy force energy, can allow these creatures to levitate slightly off of the ground, floating in the air like actual fairies as their wings faintly glow. This further feeds into their host of unusual powers, as while these creatures mainly gain access to support moves, they can learn a few useful fairy-type moves, and are further one of the few Pokemon able to harness this energy to use the powerful Meteor Mash attack, though their attack stat is generally too low to make good use of it. It further fuels their abnormal Metronome technique, which Clefairy and Clefable are infamous for, as they were the first Pokemon in recorded history observed using the technique, and the move's capability to summon almost any type of move to their repertoire, however random, can make them a severe hazard in the right circumstances. Not surprisingly, many people, men and women alike of all ages, pine after these creatures for their adorable appearances and cries, plus the fact that witnessing them dancing is supposed to bring happiness in the future, and wish to have them as pets. But their incredible rarity can make this difficult to do, resulting them existing as a treat to the human eye from a distance alone for the most part, especially since those that recklessly show off their prize specimens are more likely to be targeted by thieves, showing just how desperate many people are to get a hold of these creatures. Because evolution into Clefable requires the use of an evolutionary stone in order to trigger, as is the norm for these sorts of scenarios, these creatures lose the ability to learn any new move after evolution, and as a result, they tend to only choose to evolve in the wild once they have gained access to a number of attacks and techniques that will help them survive adequately in an adult state. This makes them incredibly hard to come by in the wild, and this is not helped by the fact that Clefable are highly skittish by nature, especially towards humans, almost never showing themselves or going anywhere where they sense the smell and sound of anything that they are not familiar with, running and hiding the moment something unfamiliar enters into their range of hearing. This latter feature is of particular note, as these creatures possess incredibly acute hearing that allows them to hear something as small as a pin drop from over half a mile away. So they tend to avoid loud and busy areas, and there is very little that can go undetected by them in their remote cavernous homes. When these creatures do show themselves, however, they are generally quite friendly and worship the full moon just as much as their pre-evolved form, Clefairy, additionally using it as a symbol of mating times in the general populace. Unlike Clefairy, which have to absorb moonlight into their wings in order to levitate, Clefable exudes so much fairy force energy that they can float on their own without any external source fueling them, and will often do so on dark, moonlit nights, skipping across the ground with a bouncy step as they walk, and across isolated lakes in mountainous terrain like they were walking on water. This is said to be a beautiful sight to the few that are lucky enough to see them, and it is said that couples that view a Clefable engaging in this activity on a moonlit night are guaranteed to have a happy marriage. Though they may often gaze at the moon longingly, as if they were homesick, these large creatures simply adore it, and in combination with their powers, helps to make them mystical beasts to many, worth adoring and pining after, even if their extreme rarity means that only a lucky few may ever be able to lay their eyes on one in the wild in their lifetime. Extremely rare to the point of almost never being seen by many, and adorable to an exceptional degree, the members of the Cleffa family are fun creatures to be around and can more than brighten the day of anyone that is lucky enough to come across them. You might have to hunt in the most remote of places to ever get your hands on one of these critters, but it is certain that good fortune will follow you afterwards so long as you keep them hidden from others. If you're looking to go on an expedition to find these creatures in that case, make sure that you bring a little bit of meteoritic material with you as bait. Getting a hold of a moonstone might be difficult to do, but if you can acquire one and use it as a lure, you just might be able to snag one of these fairies for your collection. So long as they don't get too wise to your actions and make use of their Metronome technique to unleash unpredictable chaos that may or may not result in an injury that even the best of medical doctors are unable to fix. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description.
Yeah, no.
With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.